There's a beautiful new town popping up and you're one of the chief planners of the city. You've got great big ideas that will attract tons of new people and you just can't wait to say hello and welcome to Grinivil, which was designed by Rudy Przynski and published by Rudy3, who helped sponsor this video. Hi everybody, my name is Nick Murphy of the Brothers Murph and we are here with Board Game Geek. Well, we've got a city to build, so let's get this game down to the table to learn how to play Grinivil. In Grinivil, players are jointly building out the new town of Grinivil, though you're trying to be the best at doing it. You'll be expanding the city, constructing buildings, paving roads, and most importantly, attracting new residents. But before we get into all that, let's go over the setup. Take the starting outer tile with the entrance on it and the circular center tile and place them on the table. Take two random inner ring tiles and configure them like this. Place a road tile over the construction road overlapping the inner ring tiles. Place an orange building block on the center tile in the building site with the orange municipality stripes, and then place a random building token from among all the blue and yellow building tokens with the construction site up on top of it. If there are any other gray building sites next to the road with the municipality stripes, do the same there. If there are any green residential building sites with these stripes next to the road, place an orange building block, but this time with a brown building token with the construction side face up. Note that if you're playing a 6-player game, you will ignore doing this throughout the game as someone will be playing the orange color. Note that you only do this if these sites are next to full roads like this one. These half roads on the edges do not count. If playing a 2 to 3 player game, take out the residents and building tokens with the 4 dots shown on them. Then shuffle the residence deck and draw 5 and place them in the display. Do the same with 4 and 6 players, but leave these cards in. While placing the rest of the components, make sure to leave room for the city of Grinivil, which will be a big circle. Place the scoreboard nearby. Place the market board out with the correct side up for your player count. Take all of the resources and put them in the resource reserve bag and give it a shake. Randomly draw 6 resources per player and place them in their matching space in the market. Iron, wood, and stone in the lowest, most expensive spaces. Now we need to set up the time action ring. You will always place these 4 tiles in the corners in the configuration shown. Then you will randomly choose 7 pink bordered tiles and add them in with the rest of the action tiles. Return the remaining pink tiles to the box. Shuffle the tiles up and fill in the rest of the time action ring. For your first game, it's suggested that you configure the time action ring in this way specifically. Feel free to pause the video here so you can get it set up. Place the starting tile in the upper left corner here. Each player takes 2 random resident cards, 2 trees, 1 big warehouse with 2 stone, 1 iron, and 1 wood in this configuration. Take the building blocks in your color according to the player count. 14 for 2 players, 12 for 3 players, 10 for 4, and 9 for 5 and 6. Take 3 of your workers into your supply and place 1 extra off to the side. Take your ownership tokens and 40 coins called Grinnies into your money bag. Note that the second player gets 3 extra coins, the third player gets 6 extra coins, next gets 9, and so on. Money, by the way, is kept secret. Take a player aid and then place 1 of your player markers on the number 5 of the victory point track, 1 at the start of the time action ring, and 1 on the road bonus track. Lastly, place all the land tiles, roads, buildings, warehouses, trees, coins, orange building blocks, and roof tiles. Now we're ready to begin. As stated in this game, we are trying to build out the wonderful town of Grinivil, and we want residents to come move in. The game revolves around the time action ring, and this will determine what action you take. When it's your turn, you will move your marker to the action that you would like to take. You may move it as far as you want, including the space where you currently are, which would be you going all the way around the ring like this. Though you may not want to race too far ahead for reasons that we'll talk about later. There are 2 places where you cannot go. You cannot go to an ability space where there is already a worker, including your own, and if someone else's marker is in the forced trade space, you cannot go there either. Do note that to go to a space, you have to be able to actually do the action there. If you can't, you will lose 2 points. Other than that, you can go to whatever action you like. After you do the action, you will look at this number here on the tile. This indicates the time it took you to do that action, and your action marker will move forward that many spaces on the time action ring. If the box is red, you have no choice but to move your marker. If it is gray, you can pay 3 coins to move 1 less space forward than what's listed. And you can pay this enough times to make it where you don't move at all. These actions will facilitate the building of Grinivil through the building of land parcels, the construction of buildings, moving in residents, and more. If you take the Explore Land action, you will pay pay 10 coins to expand the city. You will choose to explore either the inner ring or the outer ring. You can always attach a new parcel to the inner ring, but the outer ring may only be placed if there's a fully completed road next to it like this. Note that that road must be a paved road, not a construction road like this. After you choose where to build, you will flip over the top tile from that stack and place it in this space. You will gain 3 victory points, and then you will place an ownership marker on the tile to show that you're the one who owns that land parcel. Now there may be new roads. If there are now any municipality stations connected to a road, you will place an orange block, and you as the owner will get to select either a blue or yellow building token for non-residential gray building spaces or a brown token for residential building spaces. Note that if the new land tile is not owned by a player, which is the case of initial setup land tiles and some additional site actions, the building token for the non-residential gray building sites is selected randomly from all the blue and yellow building tokens, just like during the setup. But back to our situation here. As the municipality builds on a tile with your ownership token, you will gain from the bank 5 coins plus 3 coins per resident already in the town to a max of 20. If it's on a tile someone else owns, they will get the money. Then you will move forward 1 time unit, and remember, if the box is gray like this one, you may pay 3 coins to move 1 less space. Lots of things in the game will require you to use your resources, so let's talk about gaining and selling them. These 2 spaces are how you gain resources from the market. They both work the same way, except for this one you will get a 3 coin discount on your overall cost. When you take these actions, you may buy as many resources as you like for their costs shown. The buying price is in red, so this stone is 4, this wood is 6, and this iron is 3. The less resources in the market, the more expensive they're gonna be. When you gain resources, they have to go into your warehouses. Each warehouse can only hold 1 type of resource. And note that you can rearrange your resources at any time. When you finish this action, you will move your marker forward 1 space for every 3 resources purchased, rounded up. You may also have this pink tile in the game. Remember that not all pink tiles are in every game. On this space, you can choose to either gain 1 random resource for free, or gain 1 of your choosing and then 1 random resource from the bag. But note that this latter choice has an increased time cost. You can also go to the auction space to get resources. The player who goes to this space will randomly take 5 resources out of the bag, and then all players will bid on those resources. The minimum bid is 10 coins, and the player who is taking this action, the initiator, must bid. The players all reveal their bids, and the player who bid the highest gains the resources and 1 victory point. If the initiator did not win the bid, they gain half the coins from the highest bid rounded down as compensation. The auction action has no time cost. We talked about warehouses, and we can go to the buy warehouse spot to gain another small warehouse for 10 coins. This will go down into your portfolio and may now be used. This action costs 1 time unit. Now if you have some excess resources you don't need, you can go to the sell resources space. You may sell as many resources you like, and they will go back to the market, and you will gain the sale price in yellow for each resource you sell back. This action costs 0 time units. Now that we have some resources, let's go ahead and use them. The build road space is naturally where you build roads. You will pay 2 stone back to the reserve and then place a road on a construction road somewhere on the board. Note that it must be a full road, not a half road like this. Finished roads are important for when we're moving new residents into Grinivil. And note that dead-end roads like this one are considered completed, and you cannot place a road here like this. You will then move your marker up on the road bonus track and get the bonus showing if applicable. You can gain victory points, money, a small warehouse, 6 trees to your supply. You may add a new land tile for free, and although no victory points are awarded, you still own this new land tile and mark it with your ownership marker, though you'll still place out municipality blocks if necessary. And lastly, you may get to take another action, essentially getting a whole nother turn. Building roads costs 2 time units. The municipality has been constructing buildings, so let's get in on that action. These 2 spaces allow you to build on building sites. They function the same, except for this one will cost you an extra 3 coins. There are 3 types of buildings you can build: brown residential buildings, which go on the green building spaces, blue commerce buildings, and yellow welfare buildings, both of which can be built on the gray building spaces. Residential and commerce buildings will be 2 stories high, and welfare buildings will be 3 stories. You can either start a new building or add on to one that's already been started. Which floor of the building will determine what the cost is. This information is shown on your player aid here. For example, the 2nd floor of a welfare building costs 2 stone and 1 iron. If you start a new building, you will choose a building site and a building type, pay the resources, and then place one of your building blocks on the site and the chosen building token construction site up on top. Note that new buildings must be connected to the road, and these roads can either be finished roads or construction roads. There are multiple types of blue and yellow buildings, and you may want to choose something specific depending on potential residents, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. If you are adding on to a building, you will pay the cost for the floor you're building, take out the building token, place your building block, and then place the building token back on top. If it's a second floor in a commerce or residential building, place the finished side up. If it's a second floor in a welfare building, place the construction side face up, as these need to be 3 floors to be finished. Though note that if you finish a welfare building, all players who participate in the construction of it will gain their extra worker. You will then gain the victory points for the floor that you just built and place one of your workers next to the building to show that you've been working on it. If you already have one of your workers next to that site because you worked on it previously, do not place another one. If this is your first time placing one of your building blocks on that construction site, you will have to pay the owner of the parcel 5 coins plus 3 more for every resident who has moved in. Moved-in residents will have a red roof, so you just have to count the red roofs on the board and pay 3 extra coins for each one. If the parcel is owned by you or by the municipality, you do not have to pay. Some building spaces also have a building bonus that the player who first places their building block on will get. This can be points, money, 2 random resources, gain 2 trees, plant 2 trees, which we'll talk about in a moment, build a road but do not move your road bonus marker, build a land parcel but do not place an ownership marker, or take another action. After you have finished your building action, you may take 1 accessory building action. There are 3 of these, and which ones are available depends on which type of building you worked on, and this is shown on your player aid. You can pay 25 coins to build an extra floor on the same building, pay 10 coins to build a road connected to the build site, or if you built a house, you can immediately sell the finished house to a resident. We will talk more about selling houses in a bit. Doing a build action costs 1 time unit per resource spent, though note that resources spent doing accessory actions don't add on to this. Now, a good city has got to have some trees, and this space gives you either 1 or 2 trees for free, with the latter having a higher time cost. This space allows you to buy 1 to 6 trees. If you buy 1 to 3, they are each 1 coin. If you buy 4 to 6 trees, they are all 2 coins. This costs 1 time unit. If we go to this space, we can then plant the trees in the city. You can plant 1 to 9 trees in the city. The first 3 trees you plant will give you 5 coins each, the next 4 you plant will give you 2 points each, and the 8th and the 9th will each give you 3 points. When you plant trees, they must all go into these planting spaces and all into 1 planting sector. A planting sector is 1 area that is not broken up by roads. So this here is 1 planting area and this here is another. Now all these buildings, roads, and trees are here for 1 purpose: attracting new residents to our growing city. If you go to this space, you can take a resident card from the display to your hand for free, or you can swap a resident from your hand with one from the display at a cost of 10 coins. Note that any residents in your hand at the end of the game you will be severely penalized for. This space here is how we sell our newly built homes to residents. To sell to a resident, you will choose a resident in your hand that you want to move in. They must move into a finished house that you have one of your building blocks on, and it must be connected to a finished road, not a construction road. On top of that, each resident has a list of requirements that you have to have met as well. Each card is broken down into 4 parts. The top is what you will get for selling the house, the red banner is their mandatory requirements for moving in, the gray banner is optional requirements for when they move in, and the light gray banner is welfare buildings they want that will score at the end of the game. Note that if you were not the only player who worked on the house, you will have to pay the other player who worked on it or the municipality 15 coins as compensation for their work on the house. And you must pay this before you get the money for selling the house. Let's take a look at these bonuses and requirements. The resident will give the player who is selling the house a certain amount of points and then money. There will be a base amount of money plus 3 coins for every tree in the planting sector this house is in, to a max of 50 coins. For their requirements, they may have a desired amount of trees, in this case at least 5 trees in the planting sector. They may also require a specific type of commerce building like this bus stop here. And note that these buildings must be finished, not under construction. Some may have a specific range listed on them, like this bus stop that has a 2. This means that the bus stop must be 2 roads or less away from the house to meet this requirement. Roads only count if they're finished roads, and the road that the residence is on doesn't count towards this limit. So if we have the residence here, we're on this road so it doesn't count, and then we are 1 and 2 roads away from the bus stop, so this requirement is fulfilled. If it doesn't have a number requirement, it just needs to be connected via finished roads. It doesn't matter how far away it is. The welfare buildings at the bottom will give the players points if they are built at the end of the game. They do not need to be built when the house is sold, but all other requirements must be built when the house is sold. The rewards are listed on the left side of the requirement. These will be points or money. If it has a reward and then an X, all players who built that building gain the full reward, in this case 3 points. Note that the players who get this reward are the players who built the building for the requirement, not the players selling the house. So if white is selling the house and black and brown are the ones who built the bus stop, black and brown are the ones who get the 3 points each. If the reward has a slash, the reward is divided evenly amongst the players who built the building, rounding down. Once you have finished all this, you will remove the building token and replace it with a red roof. That resident has officially moved in. You will place them face up on the table with the other moved in residents. Make sure to keep the bottoms of their cards showing as a reminder of which welfare buildings will score at the end of the game. Okay, so that's all the main actions. Let's go over the other pink and purple actions that may be in the game. At the conversion action, you can trade in points for money and vice versa. 1 point gives you the money shown on the conversion die, and you may do this up to 5 times. You can choose to take the conversion that's already showing on the die, or you may roll it and gain the conversion that was rolled. If you choose to take what was already there, you will still roll this die when this action is done. The get money action does that. Gets you money. You may go to the chance space to roll the chance die. The result will dictate what reward you get, though you may increase this before you roll by 1 for every unused worker you have at that moment and for every 3 coins you are willing to pay. You will then roll the die. If you get less than 4, you have to pay 3 coins. 5 lets you pick 1 resource, 6 gets you 1 victory point, 7 you get to pick 1 resource and then get 1 random one, 8 gets you 2 victory points, 9 gets you 15 coins, and anything over 9 gets you 2 resources of your choice and then 2 random resources from the bag. If you go to the forced resource action, you will force 1 or more players to trade up to 3 resources with you, though you have to pay them 2 coins for each resource. The last 6 spots are abilities. When you go to these spaces, you will pay 5 coins and place one of your workers on it, and then you will have that ongoing ability until your worker comes off. Each ability can only have 1 worker on it at a time. The ecologist gives you 1 free tree every time you take an action with your action marker. The banker gives you 2 coins whenever you take an action with your action marker. The merchant gives you 1 random resource when you use your action marker. The architect allows you to use any resources when building. The builder allows you to use 1 less resource when building. And the engineer makes every resource you buy 2 coins less. Your workers will stay here until you do a full loop and pass them by, then they'll go back to your supply. Speaking of full loops, whenever you pass the last tile on the time action ring, you will have to follow a few steps. You will have to pay 5 coins to the bank as taxes, and then 3 coins for every worker on a construction site as wages. You will then place 4 random resources into the market and then return all of your workers that are on finished buildings. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that if you leave your action marker in the same spot, you will have to do a full loop to get back to that spot. The reason you may not want to do that is you will lose all of your abilities and you will have to pay out taxes and wages. So those are the actions and the gameplay. Let's get into the end of the game and scoring. The beginning of the end of the game will begin once one player has 2 or less building blocks. Then we will move into the sudden death rounds. Each player, starting with the player who triggered sudden death, has to immediately decide whether they want their action marker to stay where it is or move back to the start. If you choose to go back to the start, any abilities you pass will cause those workers to come back to you, though you do not need to pay taxes or wages and no resources are added to the market, though you do get your workers back from finished construction sites. Once all players have decided, play will continue with the next player. Once a player gets back to the start tile, their game is over. You will pay taxes and wages, but no new resources are put into the market. Now, whenever it gets back to your turn, you are skipped and you gain 5 coins. Once all players have gotten back to the start, the game will end. Players begin their score with what points they gained during the game. Then every 10 coins they have is 1 point. Now we will score the welfare buildings the residents wanted. If there is a welfare building that was finished and 1 or more residents wanted it, it will score the points shown on the resident's card. You will gain 1/3 of the points shown for every floor you constructed in that building. So in this post office, players will score 3 points for every one of their building blocks. Lastly, players will lose 10 points for every resident still in their hands. And then the player with the most points will win. In the case of a tie, the player with the most unplanted trees will win. If there's still a tie, the player with the most money will win. And that is how you play Grinivil. Grinivil is all about manipulating and working that time action ring while building the city together with other players. It's where all the things you need to do are. Managing your time as you move around it is critical because you have to get that city built. You are practically forced to interact with other players, trying to use their actions for your own purposes more than allow other players to take advantage of yours. And if Grinivil seems like a game you'd enjoy, make sure to check it out and learn more. And until next time, I've been Nick Murphy, and that is how to play Grinivil. Have a great day.